Ladies and gentlemen, the world you see around you, the life you are living, and every experience you call your own, these are not accidents, nor are they imposed by some external force. They are reflections of what you have accepted as true within yourself. We often seek change in the world by moving the pieces outside of us. We struggle, we push, we hustle. But the real axis of power lies not in action, but in awareness. Consciousness is the soil in which all things grow. It is the birthplace of every success, every failure. Every moment you call your own. But deeper than thought, more potent than words, is the sacred instrument of creation. Feeling. Feeling is the secret. You may think and desire endlessly, but until you feel the reality of your desire, it remains a shadow. Thought is the blueprint, but feeling is the builder. Thought directs, feeling creates. What you feel to be true, whether good or bad, will crystallize into your experience. Not what you wish for, not what you say aloud, but what you feel in the quiet, when no one is watching. You must learn to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Not tomorrow, not someday, but now. In this very moment, you are invited to wear the cloak of your desire. You are asked to walk in the shoes of the person you long to become. The subconscious mind, the silent builder of your world, responds only to emotion, not to reason. It accepts as fact that which you persistently feel. So let your feelings be deliberate. Let them align with your vision, not your fears. When you go to sleep tonight, do not simply drift off. Step into your desired state and sleep as though it is already yours. For in that state of drowsy stillness, the veil between you and the infinite grows thin, and the seed of your feeling is planted deep. You do not manifest what you want, you manifest who you are. And who you are is determined by what you feel to be true again and again, until it becomes your natural state. So I ask you, what are you feeling now? What are you entertaining in the silence of your being? Because the secret has never been hidden. It has only been overlooked. Feeling is the secret, and once you know this, you are free. Everything we perceive, experience, or encounter in life arises from it. Before any external event occurs, before any relationship is formed or any success is achieved, it is first conceived in the mind. The outer world is nothing more than a mirror reflecting the contents of your inner awareness. Your thoughts, beliefs, assumptions, and most importantly, your feelings shape the experiences you encounter. What you are conscious of being, you inevitably express. Reality as it appears is not fixed or objective. It is fluid and entirely dependent on the state of consciousness that beholds it. If you are conscious of lack, you will walk through a world of scarcity. If you are conscious of love, opportunities, and abundance, then that is the reality you will dwell in. You do not see the world as it is, you see it as you are. This is why change must begin from within. To alter the outer, you must first transform the inner. Trying to manipulate the external world without adjusting the state of consciousness that produced it is like trying to change a reflection in a mirror without touching the object it reflects. It cannot be done. Every condition you experience is a projection of the assumptions you hold to be true. These assumptions may be silent and habitual, but they govern everything. Once this is understood, life ceases to feel random or governed by chance. You become the operant power, not through force, but through awareness. When you deliberately choose to inhabit a new state of consciousness, one that matches the life you desire, you activate a law far more powerful than effort or circumstance. Your new inner state will compel reality to reorganize itself around it, often in ways you could never predict. This is not metaphor, this is law. Consciousness does not follow the world follows consciousness. Your awareness, your inner acceptance of being, is the author of your fate. Everything begins and ends in consciousness. It is the workshop of creation, the inner realm where all future experiences are first formed. Every event, circumstance, and achievement in life begins as an image, faint or vivid, within the mind. Imagination is not merely a fleeting daydream or escapism. It is a powerful, living faculty through which you mold the unseen into the seen. When you imagine something with conviction and persistence, you are rehearsing the future into being. You do not wait for life to happen. You are, knowingly or unknowingly, directing it by what you consistently picture and emotionally accept within. The images you hold in imagination, especially when felt to be real, impress themselves on the subconscious, which then orchestrates the circumstances, people, and events necessary for those imaginal acts to harden into fact. Imagination is the preview of your destiny, but more than that, it is the seed of it. You are not bound by present facts or appearances, no matter how fixed or immovable they may seem. Facts are the echo of prior imaginal acts. Change the image, and in time, the fact must follow. This is why the world's great thinkers, inventors, artists, and spiritual teachers all spoke to the power of vision. They did not merely react to life, they saw something greater within, and they believed in what they saw before the world ever confirmed it. Your future is not dictated by your background, your current conditions, or even your present knowledge. It is shaped by what you dare to imagine and what you dare to feel as true. To imagine boldly, with faith and persistence, is to set a course that reality must eventually follow. What you imagine, you become. What you sustain in thought and feeling becomes the blueprint from which your life is built. This is the secret power within you. You do not need permission. You do not need to wait. The life you desire already exists in imagination, and by dwelling in that vision, you begin to call it into form. It is the emotional charge behind thought that gives it life and form. While thought initiates direction, it is feeling that impresses that thought upon the deeper layers of consciousness where creation takes place. The subconscious does not respond to words or logic. It responds to what you feel to be true. It accepts feelings as fact and moves heaven and earth to reflect them in your lived experience. This is why merely repeating affirmations or entertaining desires on a surface level does little unless they are accompanied by deep, genuine feeling. The feeling of already being the person you want to become, or already having the life you desire, is what activates the creative process within. It is the emotional acceptance of a new reality that causes the subconscious to set that new reality in motion. Every experience in your life, every triumph, every hardship, was preceded by a state of feeling. Whether it was fear, hope, doubt, or confidence, the feeling came first. When you dwell in a feeling persistently, you attract situations, people, and outcomes that correspond to that inner state. The external world reshapes itself to match the vibrational frequency of your feeling. This creative force does not judge or question. It simply fulfills. It does not ask whether you are imagining something good or bad, wanted or unwanted. It only responds to the dominant feeling you carry. This is why unconscious emotional states, such as worry, anger, or guilt, often reproduce themselves without us realizing we are sustaining them. The creative force works continuously, and whatever you feel deeply, it will express. To wield this power consciously, you must learn to generate and maintain the feeling of your desired outcome. Now, not later. Not when the facts change, but before they change. When you feel from the end, when you inhabit that emotional reality before it appears, you are planting the seed that will grow into visible form. In this way, feeling is not a reaction to life. It is the cause of it. Through feeling, you are always creating, whether you are aware of it or not. What you assume to be true, with feeling and persistence, becomes the blueprint your reality follows. An assumption is more than a passing thought. It is a settled belief, an inner conviction accepted without external proof. When you assume a state of being, you internally accept it as your current reality, regardless of outer circumstances. Over time, this assumed truth impresses itself upon your subconscious, which then works tirelessly to externalize it. The outer world does not shape your assumptions shape the outer world. If you persist in assuming that you are successful, loved, or healthy, even when appearances suggest otherwise, those assumptions will harden into fact. The law does not require effort or struggle. It requires consistency and faith in the unseen. What you continually accept as true within becomes visible without. This is not wishful thinking or blind optimism. It is a deliberate shift in identity. When you assume something, you move into alignment with that version of yourself who already has or is what you desire. You begin to think from the end rather than of the end. The assumption becomes your new psychological home, and your world rearranges itself to match that internal state. Every significant change in life begins with a change in assumption. Nothing new can manifest unless it is first accepted mentally and emotionally. To assume is to claim, to occupy the state of your desire as if it were already yours. It is not passive, it is creative. The assumption itself is the act of creation, and once it is fully accepted, the realization must follow. Reality cannot help but reflect that which is held as true in consciousness. It operates on a level deeper than reason. It does not analyze, compare, or question. It simply receives and reacts. Whatever is deeply felt, especially with repetition and emotional intensity, is taken as truth by the subconscious mind, regardless of whether it makes logical sense or not. This is why people can intellectually know one thing, yet experience something entirely different in their lives, because the subconscious is not influenced by what you know, but by what you feel to be true. You may tell yourself you are worthy, capable, or successful, but if beneath those words you carry feelings of inadequacy, fear, or failure, the subconscious will accept and act upon those feelings. It creates from the dominant emotional state, not the intellectual narrative. Logic belongs to the conscious mind. It helps navigate the external world. But creation happens below that surface, in the feeling realm where belief is emotional, not rational. This is why the most powerful transformations happen not when you figure things out, but when you feel a shift within. A single moment of genuine emotional acceptance can override years of rational resistance. The subconscious is moved by vivid imagery, emotional repetition, and the felt sense of truth. It is like fertile soil. It does not care what kind of seed is planted. It will grow whatever is nurtured with feeling, whether it is fear or faith. To influence the subconscious effectively, you must speak its language, and its language is feeling. When you combine an imagined outcome with the feeling that it is already true, you impress it upon the subconscious in a way that logic never could. The subconscious then sets into motion a series of events, relationships, and impulses that bring that internal assumption into external form. So to change your life, you must go beyond thinking. You must feel your way into the state you desire. To mentally and emotionally inhabit the state of your fulfilled desire before it has manifested in the physical world. It is the practice of assuming now that you are already the person you wish to become, already in possession of what you seek, already living the life you long for. This is not pretending or fantasizing. It is a shift in identity. You move your awareness from hoping and wanting to being and having. When you live from the end, you no longer question whether it will happen. You know it has already happened in consciousness, and you remain loyal to that inner reality. You think, feel, and act in alignment with a version of you who already has the outcome. This internal shift generates the conditions necessary for physical manifestation. Life begins to mirror that inner state, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically, but always inevitably. The outer world may still show the old story for a time, but you no longer react to it as final. Instead, you persist in your assumption, undisturbed by appearances, because you are rooted in a deeper knowing. You don't wait for evidence. You become the evidence by embodying the end result in thought and feeling. Living from the end rewires your responses, changes your choices, and magnetizes new opportunities that match your assumed reality. It dissolves the gap between desire and fulfillment by removing the sense of separation. You stop reaching for the future and start dwelling in it now. This state of living is quiet, confident, and inwardly certain. It does not beg or plead, it accepts and receives. And from that place of inner fulfillment, the world reshapes itself to reflect what has already been claimed within. The senses report only what has already been created. They reflect the past, not the potential of what can be. If you base your beliefs and expectations solely on what you see, hear, and experience in the physical world, you become a prisoner to your current circumstances. But creation does not begin with what is visible. It begins in the unseen, in the inner world of imagination and feeling. To detach from the senses is not to deny what is, but to stop giving it power over what will be. The senses are limited. They can only show you what has already been accepted as true in consciousness. If you continue to respond to appearances as final, you reinforce them. But when you withdraw your attention from the external and turn inward, you reclaim your creative authority. You no longer react to conditions, you create new ones. This is the essence of faith. Believing in the reality of the unseen, remaining loyal to your vision in the face of contradictory evidence. Detachment allows you to maintain your focus on the desired state, even when everything outside suggests otherwise. It gives you the freedom to persist in your assumption without being swayed by delay, difficulty, or doubt. By refusing to be dominated by appearances, you anchor yourself in the truth of your inner world, which is the true cause of all that comes. To detach is not to become cold or indifferent. It is to stay centered in the reality you are creating, not the one you are leaving behind. It is to recognize that the senses serve a purpose, but they are not the master. You are. When you no longer require validation from the outside, your power to shape the inside, and by extension the outside, becomes limitless. The dialogue you carry within yourself shapes your self-concept, your expectations, and ultimately your reality. Every thought you repeat, every silent assumption you make, every mental argument you replay, these are not idle or harmless. They are creative acts. What you persistently affirm within, whether spoken aloud or silently imagined, impresses itself upon the subconscious and expresses itself through your life. You are always talking to yourself. Whether consciously or unconsciously, this inner speech forms the script you live by. If your internal dialogue is full of doubt, complaint, fear, or self-criticism, those thoughts do not remain abstract. They manifest as experiences, people, and conditions that match the tone and content of your inner words. The world reflects what you whisper to yourself in moments of stillness. Change begins by noticing the quality of your inner conversations. Are they aligned with the person you want to be? Do they support the life you desire? If not, then you must begin to speak to yourself differently, not as an act of wishful thinking, but as a declaration of truth. When you deliberately revise your inner speech to affirm confidence, love, abundance, and success, and when you persist in those new conversations with feeling, the outer world must conform. This is not about forced positivity. It is about consciously assuming the inner tone of the reality you want. Your inner world is always being broadcast outward, like a signal drawing to you conditions in harmony with it. Every relationship, every opportunity, every challenge that appears is connected to the story you're telling yourself. Change the story, and you change the outcome. To live deliberately, you must listen to your inner voice, not the one shaped by fear or habit, but the one shaped by intention and vision. By mastering your inner conversations, you take command of the outer world, not through control, but through alignment. It is the doorway between the conscious and subconscious mind, the moment when your defenses fall and the impressions you carry sink most deeply into the fertile soil of creation. In that drowsy, drifting state just before sleep, when thought is no longer tightly held and the mind begins to relax, your imagination is most powerful. What you feel and believe in that transitional moment is accepted without resistance by the subconscious, which then works through the night to bring it into form. In sleep, the conscious mind rests, but the creative power of the subconscious continues. It does not sleep. It receives the last dominant impression you carried into rest and begins the unseen process of aligning outer conditions to match it. This is why the thoughts and feelings you entertain before drifting off are of critical importance. If you fall asleep worrying, fearing, or mentally rehearsing failure, those feelings are impressed upon the subconscious and continue to unfold in your waking life. But if you fall asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, imagining yourself already possessing what you desire, the subconscious accepts that state as real and begins to reproduce it. Sleep then becomes a tool of deliberate creation. It is not simply a time of rest, but a time of alignment. It is your opportunity to plant seeds of intention at the deepest level of mind. When used consciously, sleep becomes one of the most powerful methods of reprogramming belief and altering reality. Repetition and feeling, combined with the surrender of sleep, impress the subconscious more effectively than effort or struggle during waking hours. By entering sleep with a clear vision and a felt sense of already having what you want, you turn your nights into a workshop of transformation. The world you wake up to begins to reflect the assumptions you carried into that sacred space. It is a steady, unwavering repetition of a desired emotional state that convinces the subconscious of its truth. The subconscious does not respond to fleeting thoughts or occasional wishes. It responds to what is consistently impressed upon it through feeling. When you hold a feeling firmly and persistently, you embed that feeling so deeply within your being that it becomes a natural part of who you are, and the external world must adjust accordingly. Change rarely happens overnight. The world you see is the cumulative result of countless feelings you have entertained over time. To rewrite that world, you must patiently replace old feelings with new ones and maintain those new feelings long enough for the subconscious to accept them as fact. This requires faith, endurance, and emotional discipline. Doubt and impatience disrupt the process because they introduce conflicting signals that confuse the subconscious. The key is to persist in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, even when evidence seems to contradict it. When you do, you create a steady vibration that cannot be ignored. The subconscious mind, like water flowing in a riverbed, eventually carves a new channel for your life experience. The outer reality bends and shifts to match the inner emotional landscape you have steadfastly maintained. This persistence is not a mechanical repetition, but a living, heartfelt conviction that grows stronger with time. It becomes part of your identity, your default state, and when feeling becomes your dominant state, manifestation is inevitable. Persistence in feeling wins because the creative process is a momentum. Once the subconscious fully accepts a feeling, it moves with unstoppable force to bring that feeling into form. Remember this: your reality is not shaped by chance or circumstance, but by the feelings you choose to live and embody. When you grasp that feeling is the secret, the true creative force within you, you step into your power as the architect of your own life. Hold fast to the feeling of your fulfilled desire, live from that end with unwavering faith, and detach from the limitations of your senses. Let your inner conversations be seeds of transformation, and use the sacred gateway of sleep to impress your subconscious with the truth of your vision. Persistence in feeling is your greatest ally, for it moves mountains and births miracles. You are not a passive witness to life, you are its deliberate creator. Feel deeply, assume boldly, persist faithfully, and watch as the invisible becomes visible and your dreams take form before your eyes. The secret is no longer hidden. It is yours to claim.